All right, so how do you make multiple keys work one lock? Well, that's called master keying in general, but it doesn't have to be part of a master keying system in order to do it. If you just had two keys that you wanted to make them work in the same lock, it's all in the way that you pin the lock. So what I have is a Schlage 5-pin cylinder, which means there's 5 cuts in that cylinder. So I'm going to create 2 different keys, and then I'm going to show you how to pin the lock up for both of those 2 keys. So because we're dealing with Schlage has 9 cuts. If we were dealing with Quickset, then it would have 5 cuts that we need. So we could put the little the little Schlage pinning chart up here for you. Sorry, which shows how many cuts they have and what pins to use. Now we're going to do this. This is going to be cut 1 to cut 5. So I'm going to create a master key, and it's going to be a 2, 3, 5, 4, 1. Okay. And then I'm going to create another key, which I'm just going to call my exterior door key, E, right? And then I'm going to give it the cuts 4, keeping it very simple, 5, 7, 6, 5. Okay. Now, one rule to follow if you're making this from scratch is if it's even in this chamber, it's got to be even in the same chamber. Odd, 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 odd. Even, even, odd, odd. So you have to do that because there has to be a minimum of 2 increments difference. You can't go a 2 and then a 3 in this chamber because there's not a 1 pin to make the difference. So this means I have a key that has 4, 5, 7, 6, 5 as the cuts, and a key that has 2, 3, 5, 4, 1 as the cuts. And how you do that is you go bottom pin, top pin, right? We got 5 chambers. So first chamber, second, third, fourth, fifth, right? Bottom pin, and you're basically talking about like this. You're dividing it up like that. Okay? So first you take the bottom pins, and then you want to find out what the top pins are for each chamber. Okay? So the bottom pin is always the lowest of the 2 cuts. So in this chamber here, 2 is the lowest. In this chamber, 3 is the lowest. In this chamber, 5 is the lowest. In this chamber, 4 is the lowest. And in this chamber, 1 is the lowest. Then you take the difference. The difference between 2 and 4 is a 2 top pin. Difference between 3 and 5 is a 2 top pin. Difference between 5 and 7, 2 top pin. Difference between 4 to 6, 2 top pin. Difference between 1 and 5, 4 top pin. Right? So this is how the inside of the cylinder is going to get keyed up. Right. So what I'm going to do real quick is I have a punch here that takes no power. It's just a blue punch, we call it. I'm going to cut both these keys really quick, and then I'm going to pin it up doing this exact thing, and it should work perfectly. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and punch these 2 keys and make them. So if you don't have one of these, it's called a blue punch. ProLock makes them. So I'm going to cut the first key, which is a 2, 3, 5, 4, 1. So let's go ahead and put this in. Lock it down. All right, so we're going to do a 2, 3, 5, 4, 1. That key is done. And the other key is at 4, 5, 7, 6, 5. 4, 5, 7, 6, 5. Okay, so we're going to go to there. 4, 5, 7, 6, 5. That should take care of it. Move this out of the way. You can notice it leaves little brass pieces because it punched the key. Let's throw those in the trash real quick. All right. So now we've got our 2 different keys that were on the board, the 2 different cuts that were on the board. We already got the cam off the back of the cylinder. Gonna pull it apart here real quick. Oh, it's pinned to 6 pins, so I'm going to go ahead and do this just so I can put it back when I'm done correctly. I'm going to empty out each chamber. There we go. Okay, there we go. And there was for demo purposes here, I need to remove this last chamber because it did have 6 cuts in it, but we're only dealing with 5. So, boom, let's remove that. Remove that spring, and we're good to go. Keep that there. Little parts are rolling everywhere. All right. Okay, so now I'm ready. So now I'm going to take my 2 keys, right? And remember the math on the board, which I'm just going to look over my shoulder and look at it. First, I'm going to put in the bottom pins. So I don't even have to hold this in here if I don't want, but I'm just going to put one of the keys in. So it's 2, 3, 5, 4, 1. Let's see here. 2, 3, 5, 4. Well, that's a mini kit, so it takes me a minute to get used to it. So here's a 2. So 2, 3. And all I'm doing is putting in the bottom pins first. 2, 3, 5. So 2 40 pins. All right. 4. This is a 225. And a 1. Okay, so this is just the bottom pins. And a 1, which is a 180. Okay, now that that's in there. 2, 3, 5, 4, 1. And perfect. Now, the top pins were 2, 2, 2, 2, 4. So here we go. I'm just going to put the top pins in. Oops, there's 1, 2. There's the next 2. I went down the crease, couldn't get it. 2, 2, 2, 2, 4. One more 2. And then a 4 top pin is a 60. So you put in your bottom pins, which have a bevel on the bottom of the pin that drops into the divot in the key, and your top pins are just flat on both sides because they lay on top of the bottom pins. So I put everything in there correctly now. So if I put this inside the cylinder, I should be able to test it. First key works. This key should work also. They're both different keys. Come on, get in there. And the second key works perfectly. So that's how you do it. That's how you make 2 keys work, 1 lock, is you master key it, basically. Now, if you're going, well, what if I just have 2 random keys, but I want them to work the lock? You know, if I have 2 random keys and I want them to work the lock, well, then you can do that. It may not, if it's not part of a system where you didn't particularly make sure you're doing even as on odds in each chamber in all your keys, if they're just 2 random mixes, yes, you can technically make those 2 keys work the lock. You just use the same formula. In each chamber, the lowest cut goes in the bottom, and the difference is the top pin. Now, if you get in a situation where the difference is a 1 pin, they do have in some of these multi-pin kits a pin that will work for a 1. It's just if you have a sloppy cylinder with a little extra room in it, then those little thin pins sometimes will get caught up in there when it turns and lock up, and that's why we don't use anything less than a 2 pin for master pin. So that's how you key up a cylinder to make 2 different keys work a lock. That's also known as master keying. But hopefully this helps you out. Appreciate the support as always. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget we have 2 other YouTube channels, Guardian Approved and Udropreneur. We're on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, X or Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in.